Hey everyone, Kevin here. I have a breaking news update for you regarding what Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell just said about the next stimulus package. And it's not only what he said, but it's also what the rest of his delegation says and the top Senate leaders about that HEROES Act and the next round of stimulus in talks with the White House. Breaking news, we have not talked about this before because, this is hot off the press and I'm excited to cover it. So here's the scoop. In this video, we're going to find out what size of stimulus package they're looking for. We're going to break that down. Then we're going to look at some things they're talking about regarding timing. This is an update on the timing talks and sort of the calendar expectations we have for when this money might actually come to us. And then of course we'll get into, I'll make a few other mentions. Specifically, I wanted to mention some stocks I encourage you to look at over the weekend as we prepare to go into the next week. Okay, here we go. Let's go ahead and pull this up. So Axios broke this story. They, I think, somehow had direct access to this call or the transcripts of this call, which is huge. So I always want to give credit where credit's due. I'll tell you, sometimes I feel like this is an episode of Nightcrawlers, or I guess that was a movie. So the movie Nightcrawlers, maybe that's why I'm always on coffee, because there's like a rush to get this information out. And then like 6 hours after I break this, it's everywhere else. I'm gonna forget the drama. Let's just get right into this, okay? And let's go ahead right over here to, this is where you get 2 free stocks with Webull when you deposit $100. And that's where you sign up for life insurance. Okay, sorry, those are the links down below. This is where we gotta go. Here we go. This is the big stuff right here. So during a meeting at the White House on Wednesday, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell stressed to President Trump that the next stimulus package, here it is, these are the words, cannot exceed $1 trillion. This is a big deal. We're going to talk about this specifically and how we might be able to break this down into actual numbers here in just a moment. But look at this line. This is another huge line right here. Very, very important that this discussion is happening in the Senate. Look at this right here. Should be focused, narrowly focused on getting money into the hands of people immediately. That is actually a very Democrat line to hear. Narrowly focused on getting money into the hands of people immediately. Sources familiar with the meeting tell Axios. Okay, so this is how they got the information. Good for them. All right, they got a leak in the White House. You know what? There's somebody to pay attention to. I wish I had a leak in the White House. How cool would that be? Anyway, let's just don't sue me, bro, okay? Anyway, McConnell goes on to stress that the next phase 4 bill needs to be much smaller and should also focus on short-term economic relief and create incentives for people to get back to work. Let's specifically break this down along with the time frame here in just a moment, but take a look at this. We know that they're worried about extending the unemployment payments. We already talked about that. We've talked about that over the last few days. That's that $600 boost. We know that McConnell's not that happy with that. We know that Republicans are probably going to cut that down. There are going to be asterisks on this. They want to see people get back to work. But I will say I'm very enthused and optimistic that we see this phrase up here that the bill should be narrowly focused on getting money into the hands of people immediately. That's big. The fact that it's going to be smaller is going to be very interesting. So we'll break down the numbers on that. Here's something interesting too. They urged for a smaller relief package, and it says here, McConnell threw cold water on Trump's idea to continue to push to tie infrastructure spending to the bill right here. This is really interesting. We're trying to steer away from an Obama stimulus package, one of the sources said. Could you imagine being in the White House and Trump or the Republicans are sitting there going, we don't want to do an Obama-style plan. And in case you don't remember, Obama's Recovery Act from during the Great Recession, I wrote the numbers over here, was an $831 billion plan. Keep in mind, the stimulus package, the CARES Act that we first patched was $2.2 trillion. That was $831 billion. And then what the Democrats just proposed was $3 trillion. The Obama era one was $831 billion and had $105 billion earmarked for infrastructure. And so here McConnell's actually suggesting, let's forget about infrastructure now. Let's just focus solely on getting money to the people and getting people back to work. Short-term economic incentives. This is also a very key word to pay attention to. Short-term. That basically also throws the bathwater out on any of these like 12-month plans. Short-term from a political science point of view, and that's the balance I always like to give you, is the balance between an investor, person with accounting experience, and also political science. Short term, we're realistically talking about 3 months here. because they think that they could repass something if they need to, and that's generally the way Republicans govern, is with ad hoc stimulus packages or bills in general. When something needs to be done, then they'll address it. There's a lot less of, well, let's create something that's going to last for this next, 12 to 24 month recovery. That's why we keep hearing that phraseology, let's wait and see. That's just a very Republican characteristic. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, and as y'all say in the comments, I'm not taking sides, Kevin. I thought that was pretty good. You guys said it for me. Okay, what else do we got here? Obviously we know that liability protection is going to be in there, but that's not so big. Before we get to timing, let's go ahead and pop open a spreadsheet here. Timing is going to be very, very important, so don't leave yet. But we want to talk about timing, but first, let's go ahead and write some stuff down here, okay? So what do we know that we're expecting in this next bill? This is big, so let's try to figure this out together. We know we're expecting to see stimulus checks, right? All right, so for stimulus checks, we know the IRS says a little over 150 million folks got stimulus checks, so let's go with 155 million here got stimulus checks and multiply that by $1,200. Some people obviously got $500 credits, but let's just go ahead and go with this. That works out to $186 billion. Remember, we only got $1 trillion to spend here. These numbers are insane, but this would give us immediate money in our pockets, right? Except the time frame part I'm about to reveal to you is a little scary, but we'll talk about that in just a second. So we got stimulus checks. Let's go ahead and put some money in here for state and local governments, because we know the Democrats are going to push for this, and who knows, maybe they'll be able to negotiate this bill up to 1.5 trillion, maybe even 2 trillion. But the Republicans have the power right now. So let's go ahead and say that the state and local governments get $300 billion. That's 300 million, so I just got to add 3 more zeros. This is pretty much what the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell does, right? Then you got liability protection. So realistically, liability protections could be sort of the wave of a wand if they're able to automatically throw out certain lawsuits, or judges are able to do that. So I'm not sure that this should cost much money, but let's go ahead and put a fund in here of $20 billion anyway to help businesses who get sued, do whatever they need to do to extinguish certain coronavirus-related lawsuits. So we'll put 20 bill in for that. Then we've got HEROES, right? HEROES has been pushed for by Republicans, by Democrats, and we also have credits or like work incentives. Let's just go ahead and say that those incentives are going to match the stimulus checks, and we'll just call that $186 billion as well. That could be extra pay, those could be tax credits for payroll, deductions or educational expenses. I don't know, it could be a whole host of things, but let's go ahead and put aside $186 billion for that. Let's say they throw in some more money then for the EIDL, or as Treasury Secretary Mnuchin says, the EIDL. And then we'll go ahead and I'm running out of zeros here to push. There we go. And then let's go ahead and put in $200 billion as well for the PPP. And this is kind of what that would look like. This package would be, oh, look at that, just under $1 trillion. So it looks like it's possible. The big thing that's lost here is, remember, the Democrats' proposal had way more money for state and local. So if state and local goes up to, 500 bill, we're over on the budget, and it's just not gonna happen. If this goes to 500 bill, that's already 1.1 trillion. So it'll be interesting to see how this breaks apart, but let's hit the other news here on timing, because that's a little problematic as well. So this is not so good, but Senator Chuck Grassley, who, just so you know, is the Senate pro tempore, which basically means he takes over for Vice President Mike Pence when he's not there, who's the president of the Senate. The vice president leads the Senate, and then they appoint a pro temp. Who's Chuck Grassley. Anyway, he's up there, okay? He's like a senior senator. And apparently he told reporters this afternoon that real negotiations, wait for it, won't start until the 3rd or 4th week of June. Like, you've got to be kidding me. Why? They're already taking basically the rest of May off. Why would the first 2 weeks of June disappear? Especially when they're saying that they want a bill that's narrowly focused on getting money into the hands of people immediately. Like, that's cognitive dissonance here. You can't, on one hand, say, I want to be focused on getting money into the hands of people immediately, but then on the other hand, say we're not going to have real negotiations until 3 to 4 weeks into June. Last time we talked about timing, we were kind of thinking, look, we're probably not going to see this money until at least July 4th. So, maybe if those negotiations get condensed, so our current prediction, or my current prediction, is plus or minus July 4th, but this kind of makes me think it's going to be shortly after July 4th now with this new information here. Oh, well, there you go. Senator Roy Blunt, I wonder if he's blunt, says passing a phase 4 bill by July recess is optimistic, okay, but said the legislation must be passed by August. So just so you know, the Senate recess for July is about the 10th to the 20th, which, I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, before I got 2 free stocks with Webull when I deposited $100 and life insurance, before those days, when I was a kid and we were, didn't get our homework done, we didn't get to have recess. We got to sit in class during the 30-minute recess break and we had to get our work done. It's just this. What? Really? Hopefully we get it done before recess, but if not, we'll get it done after recess. It's just so frustrating. If this doesn't piss you off, then I feel like you're not human. But I have a feeling that all of you agree that this is bogus. But at least they're optimistic that it'll get passed before the July recess, which would mean right after July 4th. All right, so I don't know about you. I don't know how I feel about this. I feel good that now it's clear. Now we're not talking about if phase 4 is going to happen anymore. Now we're talking about how much and what's going to be in it. That's good. Well, that's literally what we should have been talking about all this week, except no, we were still hearing let's wait and see crap this week. So frustrating, but this is good information. So what are we still expecting? Let's do a quick recap on what we're expecting, and then let me talk about stocks just for a quick moment. So in terms of what we're expecting right now, I personally still believe, and I ran this poll on Instagram and Twitter, I personally do believe that we're going to see that $1,200. I do think we're going to see some form of heroes credit or credit for payroll taxes. That's going to be that incentive to get back to work. I know that's more complicated than more stimulus, but remember, I'm saying $1,200 stimulus plus some kind of credits. And the stimulus itself is a tax credit too, okay? I know, it's also confusing with the verbiage. But we expect that. We see an asterisk on the extension for the $600 unemployment insurance. My guess is they might come out and say something like, look, we'll subsidize states and we'll let states continue to give unemployment insurance payments to people who are unemployed who were self-employed. Remember, that was part of the CARES Act. But I think they're going to get rid of this $600 a week thing, the boost, basically. I'm not saying I want them to get rid of it at all. I think that's wonderful. But, on one hand, yeah, some people are making more money on unemployment than they were making at their jobs, which I do. As much as that's cool, and I'm happy for y'all, it is kind of I see a little bit of a moral hazard there. Okay, now let's hit stocks. We'll see though. Not taking sides, right? Meet not taking sides, Kevin. Okay, and now let's quickly take a look at this here. So this right here is a video that I posted. This is so weird to say this. I posted this video on March 18th. 6 stocks I just bought despite the crash. You might know that I've literally been buying stocks every single day that the market has been red throughout March, throughout April, and so far throughout May. I just buy a little bit at a time, all the time, and I pick my favorites. One of my favorites has been Redfin, and I bought Redfin at $10.33, as I show you in this video. What's crazy about that is they are now trading for about $29. That is back almost to pre-crash peaks where they were at about $32, $33. Now, let me just say this, okay? This is not supposed to be a fundamental analysis, what I'm about to tell you, but I am going to be doing that fundamental analysis this weekend and then sharing that with my private course members next week. Might mention it on the channel here. I don't know, maybe Lauren and I will film another vlog too. You should check out Lauren's vlog, by the way, if you have not yet, in the description down below. But I do believe Redfin has some staying power. That's not such good news for real estate agents, and I know a lot of real estate agents who follow me are going to not be so happy about that. But remember, I've always, as a real estate broker, because I am one and an investor, I've always said that real estate can be hedged by buying Redfin. That is, if you're an agent, buy Redfin stocks. So if they take over the world, at least you're winning over here, right? But I like the company, and I do think that they're doing all the right things for what they are as a dare I say, discount brokerage, even though, yes, that is what they are. So some things to consider. I hope you like this new information. Let me know if you like this sort of like little stock append at the end of the video. I don't want to bore you with a bunch of stock info in just one video. I don't know, maybe you would want that. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Please subscribe. Thank you so much for being here, and until next time.